I usually go as a YouTube short, hit this 3 minutes, but after finishing this chapter and crying for like 5 minutes, I'm like, I gotta make a whole video here. Because this is, we're done with part 1. That's the end. What a, just, I have so much to say, and it's just like trying to keep it in the 3 minutes of shorts. I was like, this is impossible. There's just too much here to open up. And that was before I was even like, oh, it's the end of part 1, and they're like, part 1 end. And we're like, okay, what a phenomenal 112 chapters for a part 1. Just from strength to strength to strength. Every week I'm like, this is the best chapter, this is the best chapter. And for this, I gotta say it again, it's such a good setting of the scene for the future, but also bringing it back to its roots in a really nice way. As we start with the stuff with like Iori and Samura, where you can see Iori with this like just pained expression. It's one of those ones in manga you see every so often where it is just multitudes of emotion are contained in a single panel, where you can feel the miasmic nature of human emotion. And for that I have nothing but appreciation. And you can see a similar thing in Chihiro for a lot of it too, where he has this kind of like melancholic expression as he just navigates every scene, where he is hopeful, but he also understands the position he's in. But then you see as the chapter goes on where that turns into a more resolute and pondering expression, which is really great and I love a lot. But I think it was a good thing to do, to spend a lot of chapter admitting we lost, here's what happened, but there's still a chance, as he says. And then getting into the whole dark power, where it's sacrificing life for the ultimate power, where it's keeping the possibility that Samura maybe comes alive. Like, I'm pretty sure he's GG for now, but you never know. Because the way they word it is that he turned to ash by the Toguna's power, so if he did it again, maybe he could come back. They never say he could come back. They deliberately put those ellipses there. But I think what also matters even more is that Chihiro tells Iori and is like, your dad didn't give up on you. Like, this is not the thing you're thinking of. Like, don't be so down and hurtful and all that fun stuff. And you can tell it shakes her out of it even a little bit, because there's the little comedic bit where he's like, I gotta break the sword, and she just like bangs her knee on it, and you're like, sure. It was a nice bit of brevity in terms of just giving a little bit of comedy in a chapter that's otherwise pretty heavy. But then it refocuses back onto the forging of the swords. Why was this sword created? What was it meant to do? That's been around the narrative of every sword in the story and just in general. Where it's like, why did Kunishige create these swords? What were they meant to do? And you see it shift to now that Chihiro is thinking that with them, where he will surpass his father. And in turn, it relies on the two of them and their relationship, their dynamic, the father-son, as they grow and the son goes to surpass it. But the interesting part of really this chapter for me is the latter bit, where you can see the brief just page of Akimura reflecting, where you can see that what Samura said did bother him. It's that seed. All you need is that little seed of doubt and the little seed of the curse. He's like, what do you mean, Samura? Like, it's snagging his back of his mind. And you see that Akamura doesn't see it as that. He sees it as he says, a lesson. It's that brief little bit of characterization that he doesn't see what he got of as bad. He sees it as a force behind the actions he's taking, as he basically commands all the sword guys now. But then you have the flip side, which is Chihiro's one, as he returns to the forge and gets all swordsmithed up. And we reflect on Kunishige and his things, where like Kunishige even says, these are not necessarily the right answer. He's aware that the swords he made are not necessarily the best solution to the problems at hand. They are the ones that happened, but now Chihiro has to see the world through his own eyes and his own experiences and judge them and see how he wants to make the new N10 and reforge things into being the future. As he reflects on the various ways people have interpreted the swords, like Sogo, who thinks they're just for killing. Ones where it's like, it shouldn't be used for individuals, it should be used for the general people. It's a masterpiece. And really taking to heart what people have said about the enchanted blades, instead of just being like, no, my father was good. He is taking the time to earnestly sit with the blades and their meanings and decide what he wants to do from here, which is awesome. I think that's such a cool mode of characterization, to just be earnestly engaging with the villains of the story so far and asking yourself what that means and how you want to intertwine that with the future. He's not just rejecting the past, he's embracing the past and the things he's lived through and combining them into the new Blade itself. He has to wonder what kind of future he wants to make. And I think it's really cool that you can see the like notes of how he's remaking the blades, because it's not just the new N10, you see the new Cloud Gouger too. He has the pieces of all the broken ones that he can reforge into the future and make how he sees to fit, making a better future. And again, it won't be necessarily the perfect answer. It never will be. It's a human being creating the swords and their powers. But its core, he believes in his father and his footsteps, and believes that at his core he was trying to, or Kunishige was trying to make a better world. And as such, Chihiro is following in his father's footsteps to make a better future for others based upon the things that happened in the past. You can learn from the mistakes of his father to forge new blades, as you see him locking in on the forge, which I think is a really cool thing. I think it's great to not just end part one with like the battle has just begun, but ending it with Chihiro locked in on the flames, making these new blades. I think that's such a fitting end to part one, where we've had Chihiro and his experiences in his upbringing challenged by every villain basically at every turn, and then to end it all with, what future do I want to make? What can I do to surpass my father and make a better world? And it's just great. I just love the self-reflection, the embracing of the past of the story in its collectiveness. It's not just like, oh, this is just about Akimura. Hokuzono is very deliberately shows every villain and others to just be like, these are what the swords mean to people. What do I take from that and make for someone else? Which is just awesome. Super, super good. He's learned, it's really the focus on the eyes. What is he seeing? What has he seen from the battles that he's undergone? What has he seen from the worldviews that have come into conflict with his? What has he seen from Samura's sacrifice? Maybe if he comes back, I don't know. And what can he take from that to make a better future? And to me, that's so peak. I love it so much. Now, as for this being the end of part one, where do we go from here? I got no clue. We could go to part two and it'd be he's forging those swords. He spends the next 50 chapters really grappling with himself. And honestly, I'd be so down for that. I would love to just see some chapters of him. It could literally just be him forging the blades intercut with reflections on the world he is in and what it means from there. Because I think there's so much for him to unpack and really wrestle with. And for some of these people that he could reasonably communicate with, that have been under the system, were in this system, or have known these blades, like Uruha, who knows multiple of the users, as well as all the other sword masters and that are out there that still have their enchanted blades that Chihiro does not have access to, but maybe will come into contact when they see like, hey, that guy who killed 200,000 people is in charge now. Maybe I should get out. Because I think all of them bring their own lived experience with the blades and with Kunishige in a way that could be helpful for reforging these blades and kind of understanding where he came from and stuff like that. It's kind of the blade is me kind of thing, like from Thousand Year Blood War, where in order for the swords to be the best they can be, you have to understand yourself and everything that made you the way you are. But in this case, you can apply it to both Chihiro and also to the world around him, where it is basically what made the swords these way. It's like, why did Kunishige decide to do these specific things, these specific swords? Which I think would be really fascinating, because it is just exposition and a flashback, but also more indirect characterization and kind of direct characterization for Kunishige, because he is the guy who forged the first batch of swords. What was his process? What was he thinking of? Because we don't really know a lot about that, because he is kind of cagey about it. We've mostly gotten it through other people who either knew him or have vague indirect experience with him and his reasoning. And I think it'd be really interesting to delve into that. Because best assumption is he made those swords to make a better world. But what was that world like, and what did that kind of direct itself into as he made the blades with their various specific things? Because we have like the one that revives people, we have the one that kills people. Like there's the bases that Kuneshige made them, and then what the people made them into just by being who they are. And it makes me curious if we'll see the like core bit of like what was Kuneshige's intention with them, regardless of if it actually matters, because it kind of doesn't, because the story has said that it kind of takes the mold around the person. They kind of have their own input in how it manifests. Because I think you can go there with even if Kuneshige meant well. Many such cases throughout history, like that's not how things turned out when they were put in the hands of people, like with Akemura, where it's like maybe when we get some characterization, you'll see that he was not this guy with black eyes who's just Mr. Evil McEvil. We have to be like, how did we get here? Which I think for both Akemura and for Kunishige, and just really everyone, I'm very curious. Especially with Akemura's flashback, the one page we get is him, presumably him as a child, which to me raises a lot of questions. Because it's, I mean, whether it's him or if it's his own child, like we don't know anything, we just know it is a child. He could have been a little baby and somehow the sword ended up in his hands, or he was just born into a terrible life and decided to kill it all. We don't really know. But either way, I'm very intrigued, excited, many such words to describe it all. In terms of other people, really like everyone, I'm curious where they'll go. Because like Hakuri is kind of doing his own thing still. Like he's not in this chapter at all, but we know he's still alive. Same with Shiba, who could be a very interesting place for some more characterization, since he has the most connection to Kunishige and everyone else who has an enchanted blade. Same thing with like Iori, who still is very much like not the... She knows how to use her sword, but she doesn't exactly know how to use it like well. So I'm curious what the story will do with her, whether it'll be with the guards or if there'll be stuff with Chihiro where he kind of takes her on to be the guy who fixes the swords, but then also is like, here, this is what I want you to learn from this, because she was the one who kind of helped him grow and he helped her grow and break free of the various things that were happening to her. But man, seeing the part one end, holy aura, guys, is always something so satisfying and just sends chills down my spine when you get to the definitive story being like, boom, we're done. Because the same thing happened with like Bleach when you hit the end of the Arrancar saga and it's like, we're done. You just have to sit there and really reflect on everything that came before and what led up to this and where it can go. And it's just a good moment to pause and reflect. And as you can see, I am doing very, very much of that, because I feel like that hammer hit the forge and I said, man, time to cook. In terms of first arcs though, this is honestly probably one of the best in Jump. Like I can think of very little things that I would trim, and especially like the entire Swordbearer assassination arc, I'm like, man, that is just strength to strength to strength. And that's coming off of the auction, which was also just strength to strength to strength. And if this is only part one, I'm so excited for where Hokusona is going to take us, because I have no idea, but I will be seated every week to unravel whatever wild ride he has in store for me. So with that, we reach the end of Kagurabachi Part 1. 112 chapters in. Maybe there's some significance there, I don't know. But I cannot wait to start Part 2 next week.